Oh, yeah, I've
What's
done
up?
it.
Oh, cool.
Right, we're live. We are live. Welcome to the show. This is the show for all of you people out there who want to hear us talking about dating and for you to take no action whatsoever, but to ask increasingly complicated and irrelevant questions in the chat. So if you have got questions, put them in the chat. We'll try and deal with them later. But we're on a bit of a timeline today because we've got a client call. We've got a call. We've got a call with somebody who is actually making the effort in certain areas of his life. So that's something, I guess. But anyway, so today's stream is called "The Craziest Red Flags We Ignored and the Chaos That Followed." So this is basically talking about red flags that women have displayed and stuff that's encountered through our dating career. So what's all this about, though? Really? Well, every man has ignored obvious warning signs, haven't they? Everyone's ignored obvious warning signs in women because she was beautiful, the sex was exciting, the situation felt dramatic or intoxicating. But those same red flags almost always lead to chaos later. So, most red flags are obvious in hindsight. The problem is that when the girl is beautiful and the situation's kind of exciting, then we become remarkably stupid, don't we? And I'm sure we've both fallen into this trap before.
Yeah, for sure. You were saying the other day that if it's very intense to begin with, that in itself can be a red flag.
Well, Mark Manson said that actually in a little clip I saw. He didn't really.
It's a bit of a flannel, though. I like Mark Manson, but some of his stuff's a bit flannelly. Like, he's got some good points. One of his points he said is really good, which is, well, a few I remember. So the only real dating advice is self-development, which I really like because we have this playable character and you can max out every area. And he also said very, very accurately, from my point of view, you can't be a hero to one woman without being a total joke to another. So it's not really personal across the board. But yeah, sorry, go ahead.
The book Models is pretty good, actually.
It is.
It's pretty good. But I'm not sure he's aging very well. He looks a little bit like my Auntie Edna from Southend.
With his curly hair.
Perm, isn't he?
Talking about getting back on the source as well, which
he's got that perm. All right, yeah, fucking hell. Canby Island used to be great back in the day. Foreigners now.
Thank God he doesn't have an EastEnders accent. He's clearly a very intelligent guy, but some of the stuff I just think it lacks a bit of edge. I think the book Model was great, but slightly lacks edge, doesn't it? Slightly.
Yeah,
it's all about being vulnerable and stuff. But
but that specific point that he was making in that clip, though, I do kind of agree with. I know what he means anyway, because what he's basically saying is it's super intense between them. You know, those people you meet a girl and it's just on, and sex happens very quickly, and then you spend the next 3 days with her. This has happened to me in Bogota a while ago, didn't it? But you just spend all this time with these people, and it seems incredibly intense, and it's like, oh, I feel like I've known you for all of my life and all of that shit,
Mm-hmm.
When that's happened to me, and it's happened quite a few times in my life, it's almost always ended badly in some way. And it's kind of an unfortunate fact because the ones where it's been the most intense, and I would even include like my ex, for example, or long-term relationships, where it's always ended up being toxic in some way. Now, is that because of that initial intensity? And the problem is the initial intensity is a lot of fun, and also it feels like it's sort of meant to be. It feels like fate's intervened, doesn't it? So it's very hard to resist that. What are you going to do? You meet somebody you're super attracted to, they're super attracted to you, it's on. What are you going to do? Just go, oh, no, thanks, I'm going to wait for a boring girl from accounts. That doesn't really make sense, does it? But at the same time, usually I've got on to sort of regret those encounters, or not regret them, but you know what I mean? Usually it's ended pretty bad. But on the other hand, is that just because of me and the people that I've attracted? It's hard to say, isn't it?
Well, yeah, 2 points I'd make to that. First of all, you're a walking red flag. So you are the common denominator of all of these car crash relationships between all these people, A. And B, going with my kind of mantra, doesn't it always end bad in some way? Is there ever such thing as a really smooth, amicable breakup? I don't think so.
True. No, you're right. It's funny though, because I recounted that. I mentioned that video to Miss, what should we call her? Miss S the other night. No relation to Mr. S, by the way, because that would be terrible.
But Miss S, your long-term ex?
No, Miss S, the young tearaway who's.
Oh, why is she called? Okay.
So
Sure.
I told her, I said to her, oh, you know, I saw this video. This guy, this self-help guy, was saying, oh, whenever it's really intense at the beginning, that's always a red flag. And she went, yeah. Well, I'm just trying to ignore that.
Oh, right. So she knows it as well.
Yeah.
Isn't that the beauty? Just to play devil's advocate, isn't that the beauty of like this stuff? When you connect on a vibe level, you know, just vibe with her. Basically, which means she gets your stupid sense of humor that we produce, not
Yeah.
yours, everyone's.
Yeah.
And there's reciprocal sexual energy and connection, nervous system connection. Isn't that what that really means? You know, when it's like intense at the beginning. I don't see how that necessarily is actually destined to failure, or it's going to be toxic. You know, that's just intensity of connection, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't. The thing is, I don't disagree with what you're saying, but I also kind of know what he means. I don't actually know what the truth of it is, because you're right. That's what we're all looking for, really, isn't it? What are we all looking for in the end? We're not looking for somebody who's, oh yeah, she's all right, she's a bit boring, but you know, whatever.
A grower, is he basically saying, right, so I don't know details, but he's with a Brazilian woman. Is he basically saying, right, it should be the best relationships are growers, not showers, right? Possibly. Where it's not, you're not overwhelmed with someone at the beginning, but they grow on you. Is that Possibly. Really? But is that what we're striving for? One in, you know, if think about, well, yeah, but if we think about as well, like what's life in my experience, it's to experience lots of stuff. So the highs, the lows, the blows. It's like breadth of experience before we have eternal blackness. That's, you know, my view of life. It's like, do we really want to experience that repeatedly? Like a really slow burner, never really gets off the ground, quite stable, a bit like putting on some warm slippers, but never wows you. Is that really what we're angling for here? I prefer to go really intense, have these crazy memories, and then have my heart broken to 1,000 pieces, but I'll remember it forever, than really kind of average, like Sunday tea, Sunday league football, like that kind of not really much doping or adrenaline. But maybe that's just me.
Sort of like, oh, let's watch Antiques Roadshow together and then get an early night.
Yeah, it's that kind of like, oh, let's put on Coronation Street. That's your relationship, right? That kind of level of, oh, I can just about watch this.
No, I mean, look, I agree. I do agree, because that's what I look for as well. And I have the same attitude, really. It's like, look, you may as well burn beautifully and then be destroyed in the flames and all of that. But at the same time, you know, I mean, there's an example I've got actually when we go through the points, but I think about girls who I've had a real, you know, that really intense. I mean, I had a girlfriend once, this woman once, really problematic. We went to a hotel and we basically had sex all day. We had sex about 10 times or something during the whole day, you know. So quite, I mean, it's a few years ago, I have to say. I mean,
I was going to say, this wasn't in recent times by any stretch that I've known.
I mean, these days it's more like, you know, a couple of strokes and I'm out.
And were you chemically assisted at the time, Viagra or Cialis or any of them?
Yeah, Viagra. But anyway, I mean,
the kitchen sink.
That kind of intensity, you know. And she was just actually really bad news, you know. And it was psychologically, it was quite sort of, you know, it was a bad situation for me, really, for reasons I'll reveal in a bit. But you know, but there again, you know, it's a good memory. It's a good story, right? So,
given all we have is memories, and given really it always ends bad, I just don't buy into this whole, you know, you can kind of part ways and you're being waved off. She's waving off you on your horse into the sunset. And it's all good. It doesn't really work like that in the modern world, because it's very rarely mutual. I think if there's, say, kids involved, you have to keep it above board, don't you? But it doesn't mean the simmering resentment isn't under the surface.
Yes.
But that's just okay. Let's just go with, well, it'd be interesting to get the viewers, the millions of viewers around the world. Please type your thoughts down. Do you think that's a reflection? Those of you who have had relationships that aren't taking action, do you think that's accurate? That how did he frame it? That the most intense feeling you get at the beginning is usually a red flag. If you have a very intense feeling with a girl very quickly, that's usually a red flag. If you have an experience with or without that, comment on this stream. And without further ado, shall we go into point number 1?
Yeah, so let's just go through these. So we're basically going through a few red flags that I've encountered. So the first one is red flag number 1, the dangerous sexy girl. So the story here was basically, this was a girl that I met a little while back, and we were talking over dinner, and I was saying, we were talking about the whole bad boy, nice guy, bad boy dichotomy. And she said, well, yeah, I like bad boys, but I only like really bad boys. Like, if you're the kind of bad boy who just doesn't text me for 2 days, like, yeah, fuck off, get lost. And then she proceeded to tell me that her ex-boyfriend had been an arms dealer, and he'd literally been involved in the international arms trade, like selling guns to dissident forces somewhere. And she said, that's the kind of bad boy I like. I don't want some kind of vanilla bad boy who's just like, oh, maybe he's flirting with another girl at the bar or something like that. That's not good enough. If I want bad, I want like really bad. Okay.
Right.
So some women are attracted to danger and chaos itself. And the signs there, fetishizing sort of criminal or extreme personalities, romanticizing instability, thrill-seeking behavior. These relationships often feel exciting, but they attract high-risk personalities. So men think they're entering a romance. They're actually entering a chaos ecosystem. So would you agree with that?
So isn't this all women? Let's be honest.
Well, probably.
Secretly, they might pretend, they might have to put up with the fucking, the office kind of bad boy, at the printer who's banged a couple of the secretaries behind her back, right? But aren't women all craving a really dangerous man?
Well, I guess so, yeah. There's quite a few memes about this on Instagram, or ones that pop up for me anyway. It's sort of saying like, I don't know, making jokes about that. Oh, he's just got out of jail. The look that women give. There was what was that girl called? Sabrina Carpenter. There was this picture of Sabrina Carpenter, or video of Sabrina Carpenter, where she's kind of at some award ceremony and she's like licking her lips. They've taken this and they've memed it. They're basically saying this is the look that women give when he's 6'4", he's just got out of prison for he's just got out of a long stretch for murder or something like that, Well,
not a single woman was going to turn down that Jeremy Meeks character when he was Beast Boy, and he wasn't even that bad boy. I think he'd done some armed robbery, but we're not talking like El Mencho style cartel leader. I mean, who the fuck's going to turn down a Mexican cartel leader? For Greg at the office? I think women all secret.
You could make the argument then that the arms dealer isn't even bad enough. I mean, has he actually killed anybody?
Depends on his personality type as well. I think I'm thinking like a kind of a Daniel Craig, James Bond, pretty unfuckwithable, quite self-amused. That adds to it. You can get hyped up kind of bad boy, can't you? Where he's just a bit all over the show, and I'm not sure that's particularly attractive. So I think it's the archetype that's painted, but also the method of delivery. How do you actually come across? But I can't see women, if you think about the lust for power and what's gone before. Obviously, the Anglosphere is very soft and modern now, which most guys are watching this from. And there's no real problems. But if you think about what women, the men that won, up until this time, in times gone by, it was usually powerful, violent men. I mean, women haven't really changed for what they're attracted to, surely. I think women like a man that can be ruthless, has power, has connection, and can absolutely fuck them over in a heartbeat that chooses not to. I think men, I genuinely believe the problem most men have with dating now is they just come across as soft as fuck. And it's exemplified by the fact that most men will do anything they can to even get out of saying hello to a woman sober. I mean, there is a real softness of the modern man.
Well, to put it into context, so I'm sitting there with this girl who was sort of, I mean, on the surface, my usual kind of quite good girl looking, she was a stylist, she was into fashion, quite good girl looking. Like, you wouldn't look at her and go, she wasn't covered in tattoos. She didn't have like loads of piercings. She wasn't that type of archetype. She wasn't even some kind of, Instagram kind of like massive lips and loads of makeup or nothing like that. So most people would probably look at her and go, yeah, she's a nice girl, she's a good girl, whatever. And she comes out with this, she just casually drops in, I used to date an arms dealer, she obviously found it a bit exciting, she found it a bit of a thrill. So I suppose the question is, if you encountered a girl who's like that, and I'm sure you have, would you consider that a red flag? I mean, I'm sure we'd just go ahead with it anyway, but I mean, is that a bit of a red flag in a way? Because it's sort of like, it just shows a certain mindset, doesn't it? It shows a certain way of seeing the world.
I think it's exposure. I think it's the same. You've told a story about maybe dating a girl and she's been in that environment of just extreme wealth.
Yes.
And then after that, your cabbage smelling patch in or flat cabbage smelling patch flat in wherever it was just doesn't cut the mustard. I think the problem is if a woman's been exposed to a really bad man, in inverted commas, all puns intended, it's very hard for her to go back to the normal dude, isn't it? So I think it's exposure. I think it's exposure. If they haven't been exposed, they're okay. If they have been exposed, you kind of fuck, because they're always. It's like if I fucked a girl once who'd fucked a porn star. And why would she feel the need to, it was a one night stand. The next day she told me that the amount of times she must have wheeled that out almost as a way of like a kind of like, it almost seemed like, oh, you know, it was a good bang, but you know, this one time. And it's like, again, that sexual kind of leaderboard now, where a bit like the alpha, you know, if she's been on a billionaire's yacht, the financial leaderboard, she's been around arms dealer, the danger leaderboard, that's imprinted her as she's always going to kind of compare people. So what you really want, ideally, is kind of the cliche good girl who hasn't really left the Russian village, doesn't have Instagram, and has never been exposed to any kind of these extremes. Because as soon as they have, if they're predisposed to that kind of thing that turns them on, which most women will be, whether it's finance, violence, extreme sexual prowess, you're kind of screwed, because she's always benchmarking you against her in her mind.
But I mean, as I've sort of learned more about this stuff, and as I've I've interacted with a lot of women, and I've understood, you know, some of the things they've seen in the past, this is actually more present in my mind now, because I always turn up and I think, well, okay, I'm putting on a bit of a show here, but she's probably seen some real stuff in the past. And I don't ever really, like, we've talked to our client about this, I don't ever really get jealous or really think about women's exes before I've met them, because who cares, right, really, within reason. Right. But, you know, at the same time, you are being compared not just to Stavros, who's in her DMs. Where is he? You're not just being compared to Stavros in her DMs, but you're also kind of being compared to the women that the men that she's been exposed to in the past. And like I say, if you've got some sort of well brought up middle class kind of Italian girl who's going on about arms dealers, then what hope is there for the rest of us, really? Do you know what I mean? Because I can pretend to be a little bit edgy with my little tattoos and my suit jacket. Do you know what I mean? But at the end of the day, it's not really cutting the mustard, is it? Do you know what I mean? Although, having said that, of course, the real thing is the mental side, though, isn't it? That's the real thing that separates the wheat from the chaff.
What did you call it? The mental side?
Yeah, it's. I mean, there might be somebody. So conceivably, there could be somebody who's an arms dealer, but he's also a bit of a flannel with women. I mean, I'm sure this guy wasn't, but you know what I mean? It's like, whereas I think the guys who ultimately imprint themselves on her memory are the ones who have the most. It's a mental game, isn't it?
You mean taking her on a kind of an emotional experience?
Yeah.
It is, and you could still presumably be a bad man, inverted commas, and not have any idea what you're up to. Right? You know, with one-on-one with a girl, so you still have to understand this stuff. And actually, by understanding that they want to be taken on an emotional journey, you can propagate that without some job title. Right, saying, "Oh, I'm an arms dealer." Again, you know, interesting question. But again, would he really like? Again, I've met seriously dangerous men in my time traveling around. Some of them are cool guys, some of them are not. Typically, the more dangerous the man, the more they really don't talk about what they do, and you find out through someone else. By the way, you know he does that, and you're like, "Oh, that's interesting," but they never mention it because they don't want to fucking expose themselves. So I would I'm not saying she's wrong, but I'd even question, is this bloke, you know, kind of playing the Tinder swing? Oh, by the way, love, I shouldn't talk about this. See that guy on the phone? Oh, actually, well, what, John? Oh, well, you know, I'm an arms dealer. Oh my God, you know, is it that kind of?
But if he is doing that, that would show a very advanced understanding of the game he was playing, because most guys probably watching this or who subscribe, you know, who are coming to us for assistance here, probably wouldn't even think to do that. Instead, they would go, "Oh, actually, I'm a partner in an accountancy firm," because they would be thinking,
they think that's the flex. Yeah, they think that's the flex.
Yeah,
I mean, ultimately, saying stuff is limited, isn't it? You want to convey through behavior. That's the ultimate kind of show and tell. It's not really saying, "Oh, by the way, I do this," or "By the way, I've slept with 500 women." It's just being the guy that looks like he probably has done, and being the guy who looks like he could be dangerous. Yeah. So. I think saying stuff only gets you so far, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, exactly. I mean, look, I don't know the details of this. I don't know how she knew. I think from memory, she was saying he was operating the business and she was aware of it. So I think there probably was some truth in it, whatever. But I don't really know. And anyway, with all of these women, I mean, some of the things they say, they could just be making it up. You know, we were discussing this the other night because I had this girl saying all of this like crazy stuff to me. And it's like, well, how much of this is actually true? How much of it isn't? I don't know. So they could just be making it up, but you know.
But again, that shows it's showing what women get off to, right? Women get off to the idea of a dangerous man who's, again, this Justin Waller analogy I think is very good, which is you could kill a man with one hand and be caring, you know, cradling a baby's head in the other. It's a very good analogy in a way.
Yeah,
but I think most men, if we're being brutally honest, in the Anglosphere, lack a dangerous edge. How to actually get that edge? You've got to put yourself into situations where you're constantly leaning into discomfort and relaxing your nervous system, so you start to carry a very grounded vibe. That's a key thing. You also really, you know, for most men, you should learn some sort of combat style for at least 6 months to a year, so you can actually handle yourself. Right, that's going to add so much masculine frame and depth. Is there anything else you'd add to that list, or are those kind of the main two?
They're probably the main two. Should we go on to the next point, just so that because we're on limited time today, aren't we?
Sure, we can always push Walrus back a few minutes if we need to.
So the second red flag is.
Sorry, carry on. I'll text him to say we're on a few minutes. I think
you could make it. You could even make it 30 minutes, maybe. I mean.
Yes.
Well, whatever you think's appropriate, really. Okay, so the second one is extreme sexual shock value. Okay, so this one is basically, I was briefly dating this woman in London, and the first thing, this is not very extreme actually, but the first thing was that her main bragging point was that she'd been pursued sexually by famous English D-lister Callum Best. Her claim to fame was like, oh, Callum Best wanted me. To be fair, is probably not a very high bar, because Callum Best, for people outside the Anglosphere who don't know who he is, he's the son of George Best, very famous footballer. He does a lot of reality TV and social media stuff. Hasn't particularly ever made a name for himself, but he's a good-looking guy. He's also, by the way, he's absolutely ripped now, isn't he? He's got loads of tattoos, so he is kind of ticking those boxes. And he's just known for being somebody who just has a lot of conquest. So I can't imagine the bar is terribly high for him wanting to have sex with you. But anyway, she boasted about that. But the real meat and drink of this is that we were having a coffee or something just casually, and she goes, "Oh, you know, have you ever tried pegging?" And I was like, "No." I was like, "What, you pegging me?" I was like, "No." And she said, "Oh, you know, I've been with a few guys in the past who were really into it. You know, so if you ever wanted to try." And I was like, "Yeah, I think I'm good." And she's like, "No, well, you know, you never know until you try. You never know if you might like it." I consider that to be a red flag, because anybody who offers to peg me, I'm probably not going to want to, you know.
Apart from Mr. M, of course.
Yeah, well, you've got to make some exceptions, but yeah, I would consider that to be a red flag anyway. But the point here is that when someone leads with sexual extremity or shock value, it can signal attention-seeking, boundary-pushing, emotional instability, maybe. So sexual openness is not the issue, but performative sexuality can be a red flag. These kind of women often treat relationships like entertainment content. So I don't know. I mean, what do you make of that? Is there anything? Do you think there's something there?
Was that the first date, or you'd already been sleeping with her?
No, it was a little bit down the line.
And she just kind of whips it out.
So not the pegging equipment. She just whipped out
the. It's. You want women to be really. This is the whole cliche, isn't it? You want women to be really sexual with you, but you don't want it to be like a kind of a rotating thing that she's pegged like 30, 40 guys before you. You don't want them to be body glued. Well, yeah, true.
I mean,
but you want them. Basically, you want them to be very sexually liberal and open with you. Not necessarily pegging, but just like a bit of a whore for you personally.
Yeah.
But you don't want to imagine they've been a whore for every fucker before you. But a leopard doesn't change its spots, does it? So yeah, I don't know. It's a bit of a red flag, because I think the ideal image most guys are going for is quite a low body count woman who's a bit of a whore for them.
Well,
you know, does all this crazy shit for them, but you know, after the relationship ends, never does that again. Before them, had never done any of that shit. That's kind of our fantasy, I think, or my fantasy as a man, because we like the idea that we're special, we've been elevated. She's doing all this shit just for us, you know. So, what was the kind of red flag in itself? Leading with sexual shit.
Well, I thought it was just a funny thing to drop in, really. I mean,
but what was the not the story, but what was the actual key point? I just want to know if I agree with that.
So if somebody's leading with sexual extremity or sort of shock value, which she was probably saying it partly as a bit of a shock, you know, like, oh, I think the reason she said it was not probably because she thought I would go for it, more just to sort of show, oh, I'm this super sexually liberated person, you know. So
yeah, it's a bit of a red flag, isn't it?
It's sort of attention seeking. It's sort of boundary pushing. It's sort of, it says here emotional instability, which is a little bit, you could say that's a little bit judgmental in a way, because you kind of want girls to be, you kind of want girls who are sexually experimental, don't you? Probably not pegging. But
you do, but you want them prim and proper outside the bedroom, quite classy, and then you want them an absolute, you know, whore in the bedroom when the clothes are off.
This particular girl, she actually was quite prim and proper in a way, but there was actually other red flags about her, really, which were that she was very transactional. I think she'd been very much involved with that world. And she told me some stories about, and listen, I was never going to get into a relationship with her. This was never somebody I was going to marry or anything like that. But she would tell me stories about, like, oh, I met this guy. He was like an earl. And, you know, we met and he took me to Annabelle's and then we went and stayed at the Ritz and all of this kind of thing. Now, on one level, I quite like all that stuff because I find it fascinating. Do you know what I mean? On another level, obviously, I'm treating it like a red flag because when I say, oh, she wasn't somebody I'd get into a relationship, well, obviously not. If you've got some girl sitting in front of you and she's telling you she's done pegging, she's been, you know, whisked off to the Ritz by some aristocrat and shit like that, this isn't somebody you're going to think, this is wife material, is it? But, you know, you can have fun with them, but it's not, you're not going to take it any further than that. So I think I did treat it as a red flag in that sense, because obviously you're just going to shut something like that down as far as anything long term is concerned.
Yeah, I think the key point as well here is, which you mentioned before, is don't try and change her behaviour. Just see what she's actually doing.
Look at this buffoon. By the way, he's claiming that the chat isn't live because we haven't responded to his points. Could it be that the questions and the points you made are just a bit boring? You know?
Does he think we're AIing from beyond the grave, that we've snuffed it?
I don't know. Why would you record this nonsense? I mean, it's not like it's that good. It's like, oh, these guys.
This is top rail content, Mr. France. I'm not sure, you know, of your accusations, but yeah, I think one thing you mentioned there, which
this bloke has got the balls. He's got the nerve to say they waffle. You're the one who's waffling, mate. You posted about 700 times in the chat. I mean, fucking hell. Have you got?
He meant they wafflers in. No, he meant they wafflers and they can cook a good breakfast waffle. He knows, you know, he sees the skill in the hands. Anyway, the point is here. Yes, I think it's a red flag. I think it also, I'm not a particular fan if I'm dating a girl of her talking about her exes at all. I'm not a fan of that at all.
So look, generally speaking, I wouldn't have those conversations with this particular girl because I met her it was a grey area thing, you know. I met her on a grey area site, and
also it's early dating stages. So what you want to do is be quite non-judgmental and just see what she speaks about, because then you can get a read on that person. You don't want to influence it because if you're already speaking about X and pegging by date 3, it's just going to get more. It's probably going to get more ridiculous as the time goes on, isn't it? So you're probably already ruling her out in your mind. It's not a bad thing.
This guy says clearly you're good at game when you let your emotions run wild.
He's not wrong though. There's a bit of spunk in the old turkey there, wasn't there, from you? A bit of morning. You've had your one.
There was, but have you ever heard of that thing about every accusation is an admission? Every time you point a finger, you're actually talking about yourself. Because this guy is accusing me of letting my emotions run wild, but he's the one who's been getting butthurt because we haven't addressed his questions.
Has he got any good questions?
No.
Okay, so let's continue. Right, point number 3. Point number the 3rd.
She has a boyfriend. She has a boyfriend situation. So this was, and this was one of these very toxic sort of situations I got into. So this is a girl. Let's call her Miss M. So we met some years before, and then it was a raise the dead type situation. We met, we dated a little bit, not much had happened. Then we got then we got talking again on social media. And things started to hot up pretty quickly, but it turns out she's got a boyfriend, right? The boyfriend, by the way, was a police officer, which, yeah, you could say slightly dodgy thing to be getting involved with, whatever. Anyway, we met up, we start sleeping together, blah, blah, blah. And it led into this extremely passionate, and this is one of those things, right? It's extremely passionate, full on kind of a thing. But I made the mistake of letting my feelings get involved. And I wanted her to leave the boyfriend, and she wouldn't leave the boyfriend. So it was that thing where she kept, and this, by the way, this advice is given to women as well. It's given to men. Whenever they say, don't worry, I'll leave him, I'm just sorting a few things out, then I'll leave him, then we can be together. It never actually happens, right? So I experienced this, and I got really fucked up about it because, and this, by the way, I was aware of these principles and everything when I was involved with this, but we can get pulled in sometimes. It was quite a long time ago. It was probably about 15 years ago or something like that. But, and you know, it was excuse after excuse after excuse. It's like, yeah, I'm gonna leave him, but, or there's, oh yeah, there's this, but, and obviously for me, it starts fucking my head up over a period of time until I pulled the plug, because I did have a firm deadline on it, so I pulled the plug. But a key lesson here is, and actually this didn't happen, but this is, I think, is a key lesson. If she cheats with you, she can cheat on you. So
of course,
is, you know, I'm leaving him soon. It's basically over. That was actually what she said. It was always like, oh, it's basically over. We don't even sleep in the same room, blah, blah, you know, all of that kind of thing. Was that true? Who knows? Months of emotional limbo. So men fall into this trap because they believe the story, they're emotionally invested, and they hope to win. And that was me. I hope to win. And the reality is, you're usually the side character in her drama. So in that situation, I was basically acting as her entertainment on the side. You know, she never really intended to leave the boyfriend. Whatever was going on, who fucking knows? I was adding a bit of spice, bit of drama. The stupid thing that I did, and I don't think I make a mistake now, but the stupid mistake I did was allow my feelings to get into my feelings. Do you know what I mean? So I should have treated it for what it was, which was a bit of fun, a bit of a sexual thing on the side, never expecting it to go any further. And if I'd have contained it like that, it probably would have been okay. So the mistake here really was on my part. And I don't, you know, I've learned from that, and I wouldn't make that mistake now, I don't think. But extremely toxic situation to get into for me and for her, actually. I mean, I'm not saying it was great for her either, but for me, it was very bad. And in the end, I had to just cut it. I had to just walk. And she was one of those people. I thought at the time she was like one of the loves of my life, you know, because we were so aligned. Yeah, I mean, we were so aligned on so many things. She was incredibly attractive to me at that time. It was just really full on. And I had to just walk away from it and go, sorry, this is done. You know, I'm out. And I never regretted it because my head was so fucked up that actually walking away, I thought walking away would be a nightmare, but it actually wasn't. It actually wasn't. It was actually a relief, you know?
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, if she was really dark-tried, you could argue she wouldn't have told you she was in a relationship and just strung you along like that. She almost fucked herself over by admitting that in some way, didn't she? I mean, look, the problem is women always kind of monkey branch, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So from relationship to relationship. So she, you know, are you convinced she stayed with the dude? Or...
Well, she didn't, because she did.
She didn't stay with him in the end.
No, she didn't. So this was the thing, because I was aware of the whole monkey branching thing, and I thought I was the monkey branch, which is like, okay, fair enough. So because the way she presented it to me, she'd been with this guy for several years, the spark had gone out of it, she was kind of bored, you know, the whole relationship was dead. And I was like, well, this is great, because now I've come back into your life. Now we can ride off into the sunset together. That was sort of the plan. And I think it was genuine. I think she was bored with the guy. I think the relationship was on the way out. But the problem was, as we know from working with clients, the problem is there's a difference between saying, I should take some action and do something about this, and actually doing it. And that's what you're up against. You're up against that human inertia. So for her, because it's not easy to walk out on a 4-year relationship, it's not easy to just say to somebody, all right, see you later, it's done. I was thinking that she probably would. It was looking like she probably would for a while, and then she just didn't. And in the end, it was like, well, actions speak louder than words. I've given you 6 months. You haven't done this. I have to leave now. So what actually then happened was, at some point then, she did split up with the boyfriend. Then she got together with some other dude. And we were in contact again a little bit after that. But by that time, I was over it. It's just like, yeah, whatever, you know?
Yeah. Well, that's good you didn't return after that as well.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, look, if a woman's emotionally invested with another guy, I had it actually with this Colombian woman in that I talked to a number of times over a number of years, and she was with a boyfriend, but the boyfriend basically lets her do what she wants. She wants, and I ended up banging this girl multiple times in front of the boyfriend. Even, I don't really give a shit. Whatever. It's very, very attractive. There's very much chemistry. But it's a bad. I did the same as you. I actually liked her, and that complicates things. If you can keep your emotions out of it, it's fine.
Yeah,
You shouldn't invest emotionally if the situation is just guaranteed to just bring you pain. I didn't actually ever think this girl, we'll call her Miss M, would leave the boyfriend. I didn't want her to, but I just got too needy, right? And nothing even ended up happening bad. It was just an overinvestment of your emotion, and you stop. You need to just keep it compartmentalized and keep going out and doing your thing.
Well, and that was the mistake. That was the mistake that I made.
How do you? The big question is, how do you stop that though? Because if you really connect on a visceral level with that person, you just vibe across the board. You vibe with her personality. She vibes with yours. You sexually vibe. It's very hard to keep that. Very hard to keep it business, isn't it?
I think I've got a lot better at it. And I think it's...
Well, yeah, you become more, similar to me, even more anxious avoidant in your attachment style. Yeah. But is that really the solution, really? Just...
Well, it's better than before.
Yes, it's better than being needy, I guess.
I think it's basically, if you look at me now, and you kind of know, with the exception of, say, like someone like my ex, okay, that was a bit of an outlier. But in general, I'm pretty avoidant with these women, and I do tend to keep them at arm's length. And even with the ex, in the end, I just left, right? So but I think the reason I'm like that is because of these things in the past. So we do learn these lessons. Do you know what I mean? I'm not the same guy. I'm not saying I was a flannel then, because I wasn't exactly a flannel. It was kind of a bad boy thing to be doing. It was a secret thing behind her boyfriend's back, whatever. Which I don't condone, by the way. I mean, that's another thing. Ethically, you could say that was bad. Probably was. Whatever.
Let's be honest, you saved yourself a lot of aggro, because if you had got into a relationship with her, it almost certainly would have ended in flames. Like, if that's how you meet the woman, a leopard does not change its spots in that regard. Women are always kind of monkey branching, but if they're deliberately still with the person, it's a massive red flag, isn't it?
Yeah, well, he makes a good point here. When you're the side dude, your role is the side dude. No dates, no pillow talk, no showers together, keep it casual. And you're right. He's absolutely right. The fundamental mistake I made in that situation was inflating it too much in my own head. I should have just gone, look, we're having sex, it's fun, we're meeting up, it's a bit naughty. That's all it is. That's the vibe I should have had. And I think I'm much more in a position where I'm able to do that these days, Should we go to another one?
Sure.
Number 4, family chaos and dark backstories. So
we've got 20 minutes as well. So is it 10 points today?
Yeah, maybe we could split it into 2.
Yeah, we can do 2 parts. So let's just keep going. Get through another couple of points, then we'll do a part 2 tomorrow.
So family chaos, dark backstories. So this is the story about Miss K, and there was
Miss Ketamine. Makes her herself. An actual woman called Miss K. Okay, not Krauser, of course, in the wig, or ketamine, the drug.
She was bald.
A bald northerner. You date. Not only do you have to work with bald northerners, you have to date bald northerners. Can you imagine?
She was bald. She was a northerner. She was racist. She was really, really anally obsessive about Durgan.
Drinks Nuki Brown, sunning themselves in Mexico currently.
Wear socks with sliders on holiday. No, so basically, this was a woman who had all the red flags in the book. Really, she'd been in the Priory. She'd been in rehab for anorexia. She had a big problem with cocaine. Hadn't actually gone to rehab for that, but those things are all connected, right? Because people who eating disorder, it's a sort of an addiction. So she had that kind of personality. So she told me about how she had a big cocaine habit, which ended up with her going into psychosis. She'd had to go back and stay with her dad for a couple of months to get over that. She had tattoos, not in a sort of... I mean, Rich Cooper probably wouldn't have approved, but she was an extremely feminine, very pretty girl. So I'm not talking about tattoos like horrible, like big sleeve or something, but she had tattoos. She had tattoos on her hands, stuff like that. Very beautiful, very kind of posh English girl, but very fucked up. And she told me a story one time about how she had dated older guys in the past. She dated a guy in his 50s, and he had walked around his garden naked. She was naked, just with a pair of high heel shoes on, wearing a dog collar while he walked around the garden. So that was the kind of vibe that she had. That was the kind of thing that she was coming from. And it's a sort of a, oh, and the other thing was as well, and I've noticed this actually with a couple of girls who I've met, where the dad is sort of rich or the dad is wealthy, but she doesn't quite know how. So it's like,
Right.
daddy's, he's got a lot of money, but, he's paying for my flat and everything. But what does he do? Oh, I don't know. I've never quite known, So there's always that weird sort of unspoken thing happening in the background. And so the lesson here, when someone's life story contains multiple layers of chaos, it rarely disappears inside a relationship. Men often think, I didn't think this actually at all, but men often think I can be the stable guy who saves her. In reality, you're entering a system of instability that existed long before you arrived.
Yeah, I mean, women will often. It's often said that women will show you their red flags up front, won't they? And then she's kind of, you haven't pieced together in hindsight. These are all being visible at the beginning. So again, I think it's not about necessarily ruling these women out, but you've just got to compartmentalize them as, okay, this is going to be a bit of fun rather than anything else.
Yeah.
Rather than trying to. The problem I have is, historically, is I always fall in lust with women because I like deep connection, and it ends up quite intense quite quickly with a lot of women. It's just how I am. And the problem is I don't discriminate. So if they do have loads of red flags, I'm not thinking in my head, right, hold myself back. But I just suddenly feel like, oh God, I'm thinking about this woman the whole time. But actually the tactically smart thing to do is try and hold yourself back. But I don't know that you'd probably agree with me on this. It's boring to do that, isn't it? You want to feel that depth of connection. That's the whole point. So yeah, and that lust, overridden by lust.
I mean, I've fallen into this problem consistently, and you could argue I'm having the problem kind of at the moment with somebody, but it's like what? So, and I think you know the story of this one. So what actually happened? Because she had all of these red flags. Like it was very, very clear. Like there was just loads of red flags. It wasn't like I was going blindly like a sheep into the slaughter. It was like, no, this girl's got a lot of fucking red flags. But she's really hot. She's really attractive for me. We had a good vibe. It was kind of that intense sort of a thing. What actually ended up happening was that we'd met, we'd spent some time together. I then went on a trip to work with a client in America. So I went to, I think it was LA and stuff like that. I came back from the trip. I was really fucking exhausted from jet lag. I thought this girl had a lot of red flags. I was nervous about continuing it for various reasons. So I just kind of ghosted her in the end. I just kind of ghosted her. I just kind of let it die. And the problem is that I always sort of regretted it a bit. And then we were in contact again recently. And then she ghosted me. So the joke was on me, lol. But the point is, the problem is I'd always sort of regretted it a bit. And I don't know what the right answer is in these things. Because if I'd have continued with her and gone down that route with her, would it have ended well? No, absolutely not. But could I have continued it a little bit just to get a few more stories, a little bit more, sex, quite frankly, but also just to have a bit more time with her? Possibly, yes. And I've always sort of regretted it a little bit. But do I think it would have ended well or been a good idea? No. And I mean, ironically, at that time, I was also quite protective about my sobriety because I think she was still using coke when I was seeing her because she disappeared to the bathroom for ages and come back sniffing and stuff like that. I mean, it was pretty obvious, right? And I was worried at the time, oh, this might tip me over the edge. Now, the irony is I ended
probably
up...
would have done in hindsight.
Well, the irony is I ended up tipping over the edge anyway. So then
way worse than if she had instigated it as well.
Yeah, so
with me, of all people, I became your Miss K.
Yeah. So then after that, I kind of think, well, I could have at least tipped over the edge with her. It might have been quite fun. But
see, that's the major regret, isn't it? You just didn't do it with her, really.
Yeah.
Just thinking, it could be entertaining, but we always trying to retrospectively change the past, don't we? And we don't. So I think at the time it was correct. I think I remember listening to your logic at the time. It seemed actually like the most considered decision. It was the correct.
I mean, it's one of those things really, because this is actually where the dichotomy we're discussing at the beginning between the Mark Manson side of things and, let's say, your side of it or my side.
What's the Mark Manson? What's that then?
What's the Mark Manson? I guess the Mark Manson is based on that very short clip. I guess it's like, oh, if it's really intense and it's super, super intense and all that from the beginning, it's probably a red flag. So you should probably avoid it. And then our side of the thing is No, don't avoid it. Lean into it, because why not? We're only alive once, and then we die.
Because it always ends bad. Just be aware of what you're leaning into.
Yeah. So that story is interestingly is sort of on the cusp of those two things, isn't it? Now, what I did in the end, ironically, is I chose the final sort of Mark Manson side. Like, oh, there's too many red flags here, so I can't be bothered with this. I'm out. But then sort of regretted it a bit afterwards because there were some red flags, but could it have been fun for a bit? Yeah.
But at least you dipped your toe in, because the extreme good guy Mark Manson version would be, okay, if you sense the red flags, don't even go there initially.
Yeah.
Probably. And you still dip your toe in, tasted the goods, and you like the merchandise, but you're like, overall, this, you made the most powerful decision. You had you almost had your best of both worlds, actually.
I sort of think, in hindsight, we could have hung out a bit more. We probably could have had some fun times together and stuff like that. I don't think it would have gone anywhere. I think it probably would have ended badly in some way. But then that's the addictive mind, isn't it? It's just like, oh, just a little bit more.
Yes.
But to what end, really?
But there's also a certain beauty to being the ender, being the person that pulls a plug, because in these relationships, it's always going to go bad. And there's something quite degrading about the bird binning you. And I've had that many times. And it's like, you almost want the power win of being able to walk away first. Now, admittedly, she then came back in the picture and then ghosted you, but you kind of won initially because she was chasing you relentlessly. And you said sayonara. There is actually a certain psychological benefit to being the guy that walks away before she fucks it up,
Yeah, completely. I mean, when she was back in contact with me fairly recently, we were back in contact, and it seemed like she was going to meet up, and then she sort of just disappeared. So in a sense, she got her own back. But I don't know. My gut instinct, I don't think she was sitting there planning to be really Machiavellian, going, oh, this bastard screwed me over, so I'll reel him back in and then I'll discard it. I don't think she was doing that. I think it just shows that she's quite an unstable character.
Or you just lower down the hierarchy at that stage. She's booked another 3 or 4 blokes between you, the sexual separation. You just don't have the same sway as you previously did. But I agree. I don't think they're necessarily planning, like, I'm just going to fuck him over this way.
Yeah.
Well, maybe they are. I mean, who knows? So what's the key takeaway from that? What's the main learning point?
I kind of wanted to meet up with her to talk about benzos, to be honest, because I had a really bad experience. I didn't necessarily. That was. I mean, that's a red flag meet up in itself. You're not even meeting up with her to porker. You just want to talk about drugs. I wanted to have an basically. But anyway,
there is. It's very hard though. I mean, even with this fucking Miss M, for example, in Colombia, she's now recently started following me again, right after about an 18-month absence. It's very hard if there's intense sexual chemistry there to not want to see them repeatedly down the line. That's the issue I have. Is like, when does it really shut? When does the circus really end? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it looks like our friend here, Master the Mind, is leaving because we haven't answered any of his questions. But we haven't answered anyone's questions because we're still.
I'm sure we'll get over Mastermind, not hanging around.
Yeah.
I'll get over it.
Yeah. Coaches meant to help students. Suggest you study how to build an audience 101.
If you actually want help, well, just to answer this, look, if you actually want help that's practical, us answering a few questions on this stream isn't going to cut the mustard, is it? It's you get feedback from us because you vibe with us. So you send us an email. You're welcome to do this, info@jamessuss.com or troy@realtroyfrance.com. Include your WhatsApp number. Create a group chat. We'll talk to you about where you're at with women and where you want to get to. And then we'll explain how we can help you do that, right? Via live coaching, via feedback. Answering a few of your questions on here is not going to solve the problem, I'm afraid. It's not an information problem. It's an application problem. Men have. There is all the dating advice on the internet that you could read literally until the age of 85, non-stop. And if you did nothing different behaviorally, you would still be in the same position with women not pulling a muscle. So unfortunately, us answering a few questions is going to do fuck all apart from appease your brain for a few minutes before you ask more. That's it.
Yeah. Anyway.
Well, let's do one more point then. Yeah, we've got time for one more.
All right. Red flag number 5. This is kind of similar to the last one. Drugs and extreme upbringing. Okay, so this one is Miss S, who's a young woman that I met.
Surprise.
Who's had a very checkered background. Seems to have some kind of family wealth, but the father is a drug addict and is possibly supplying drugs to people as well. Apparently was supplying drugs to her when she was a very young age. So she was hooked on drugs for quite a long time, heroin.
Incredulous that she's still, because you've told me a bit of backstory about this, incredulous in a way that she's still bonded to him. But it just goes to show that women love dog-tried men. She's not bad. She doesn't speak badly of her dad, does she? But she speaks badly of her mum. But objectively speaking, you'd be thinking, fucking hell. Like, really? She still likes her dad after the dad hooks her on drugs age 9? Crazy.
Yeah. I mean, who? Yeah, exactly. Who knows? But
did I write that pro bono? I think that's Les, or are you typing? Because I didn't. Write that. Oh, you're right.
Somebody else think we offer our services pro bono.
Pro bono.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, this is not unsimilar to the last story, really. But again, and this speaks to the kind of people that I attract, I suppose, and I guess that I'm somewhat attracted to. I mean,
well, again, look at the Mark Manson. Again, we seem to be quoting him a lot. But what the only common denominator between all of your exes is drum roll, you, right? So you are the common denominator. You are attracting these type of women. Not to judge. I mean, I attract many red flags in myself as well.
Yeah, but I suppose then the question is: so, all right. So what does this say? Well, it seems like she comes from a fairly affluent background, right? But money doesn't equal stability. In fact, wealth combined with trauma can create very dangerous personalities. This is the decadent chaos archetype. Beautiful surface, total instability underneath. So, I mean, what can you say?
What do they call it? What's the name for that? The deadening. What did you say?
Total instability. Decadent. The decadent archetype.
Decadent archetype. I like it.
I mean, and she is all over the place. I mean, she told me her mum visited her yesterday. She's in a rehab at the moment. She told me her mum visited her yesterday, and the mum is apparently even worse than the dad. The mum's some kind of completely just out of her head on drugs the whole time.
Are you almost kind of a pro bono therapist on the side as well? Is that almost a role you see? Because you kind of you feel a bit bad for her, don't you? You want to show her the light in a kind of preacher-esque way. Well,
I mean, a little bit, because if you're in recovery circles, then you are sort of meant to. I mean, there is an element of trying to help other people. I mean, there's there's a great deal I can actually do to help, but I can certainly, if she wants to have a sounding board, I can certainly talk to her about stuff. But anyway, the point is that this is obviously, I'm sure most people would look at a woman like that and they go, yeah, a lot of red flags here. Would they make the decision to not see her, though? I don't know. I mean, again, Rich Cooper would be spitting in his nutsack if he heard this. Rich Cooper would just be like, his bald head would explode and a load of puce would come out the top. You can imagine his bald head, just like all this crap coming out the top of it. But I mean, it would, spoil the roof of his car. But I mean, for me, because if I'm not really looking for the sort of marriage and sort of, let's get a semi in Reading kind of thing, then does it really matter? Possibly not. But in my experience, because I have dealt with these kind of women before, there can be a sting in the tail. It all seems very attractive up front, but what's the end game going to look like? That's the problem, isn't it?
Well, what's the worst thing in the tail you had? You probably talk around it, but I remember you telling me about a really bad breakup you had where she almost stalked you. I mean, that's the sting in the tail, potentially of thing. Not this girl, a different girl, but that's kind of to answer the question. It can actually be physical threat or financial threat or slander, can't it? Where she starts posting about you online. So these are the real world consequences of actually dating someone that goes Pete Tong when she's unstable.
So they can't. I mean, they can.
It's not just bad vibes. Yeah, it's not just bad vibes. It's like actually they can fuck your life up. That's the kind of end cost, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So,
but inevitably that won't change our behaviour whatsoever. We'll take the rough with the smooth.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so look, we've got to get off in a minute, haven't we? Should we do a couple of questions to people who've been complaining?
Yeah, any parish notices you want to cover? And we will continue part 2 on the red flag, the next 5 points tomorrow.
So
because it's been
Mastermind, who was complaining and all of that, and then he left the chat in a huff. I mean, his first question was, let's talk more on remote goals or second or third tier cities. Main cities are screwed with materialism. Well, that's not even the fucking topic. You can see why I didn't answer any of his points.
Well, now that he's left, let's red flag it up and talk about the things he would like to say. So, what was that first question about second tier cities?
Well, he says main cities are screwed with materialism.
What was the one before that about recommendations for second or third? Yeah, okay. So remote girls or second or third tier cities. So I would agree with him in the sense that actually the capital tends to be the most unfriendly place. And actually, when you go to the second or third city, you actually do very well with women. There's a high gringo factor, and women and men pride themselves on being more friendly than the capital city. So obvious examples I can think about: Guadalajara. Right, Mexico City is great, but Guadalajara, very, very hot women, very friendly, pride themselves on being friendlier than Mexico City. You know, there's a rivalry there. I'd say Bogota as well, even though it's the capital, most gringos, and the biggest city, I think, is Medellin. So Bogota, great place to date. Cali as well in Colombia, great place to date. Very high gringo factor. Argentina, Buenos Aires is cool, but Cordoba, the second city, the student city, way hotter girls, way more friendly. Yeah. So actually, I do agree. If you pick the second or third city in a country where there are hot women, now obviously in the UK, you're not going to go to fucking Yeovil Town and hope for the best, right? There's still going to be a bit of attractive women.
Unless you're Steve Jabber.
Stevie Jabber. No, but he's living it up in Manila way, isn't he, with his ice pipe and his crumpled nose?
I'll never leave England until I go to the Philippines with me crumpled.
Yeah, he's a really intelligent man. There was do you remember our colleague in general saying, yeah, he's a really intelligent guy. Is he? Is he waving around a dildo on screen? A really intelligent man?
I'm sorry, because that guy, the other guy you're talking about, his judgment is for these online creators.
It's so skewed on certain matters, I must say, if you're watching. That's Steve Jobs.
I went from Yeovil Town to Manila to get me nuts up in guts.
He'll almost certainly not be approaching in Manila as well.
Well, no, I mean, he doesn't actually approach. I mean,
no,
mind you. So, by the way, so this mastermind guy started getting really angry. So the question that he asked was unrelated to the topic of the stream, and then he immediately started getting angry. I mean,
I love that. Amateurs.
And the next one, sorry, this is all right. This is Ding Chavez. Any plans?
Our old pal Ding Chavez. Does he mean what's he mean by the Caucasus? Does he mean like outer Russia? Georgia, we have been, and I must say, me, you, and Ege Reynolds, as he's known on YouTube, it was a damp squib for dating it. Very hairy-looking women with a lot of facial hair. Great wine, great food, but not great for women. Georgia.
Yeah, fun play. I mean, I quite liked it.
It was a fun weekend, but nothing going on dating-wise.
Yeah. All right.
Yes, this is actually. If she got daddy issues. Either she's weirdly obsessed with her dad, or she basically shit talks her dad. It's either extreme is usually a bit of a red flag. Absolutely agree. You definitely want to check her relationship with her father because it's going to have a massive influence on her behavior.
What if he's been supplying her with hard drugs since the age of 9? I
mean, but that's again, she's enamored with him, which is it's a red flag in a way, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay, so Visca has got the first question about Estonia today. Congratulations, Visca. You win a prize. How do you adapt your approach in countries with more reserved people i.e. Estonia? I mean, one thing you could do is not go to Estonia because it's not.
They absolutely love Tallinn. Like it's this secret place of pussy paradise. It's just overrated, man. It's a small, rainy city with some hot girls, but not particularly receptive and just very small and always raining. It's just not the place that people make it out to be. It's great if you go to Helsinki and you want to pass through for the weekend, just a couple of days, maybe a Friday and Saturday, pick a sunny weekend, get the ferry over from Helsinki and just give it a crack, but don't have any expectations. Just go in and be like, okay, I'm just going to enjoy this for what it is.
Yeah.
You definitely wouldn't want to spend more than 2 days there.
Yeah. Yeah. So Mastermind then realizing that his question had been irrelevant, asked a couple of actually more on-point questions. So he says, you say day game is a learnable skill, but attraction is often decided in seconds based on look, status, and vibe. What is the skill changing instead of filtering for women already interested? Well, the skill that we teach is, because you say looks, okay, we can do certain things about looks, not entirely, but you can certainly present yourself better. Most guys can. Status and vibe, that is fundamentally what we teach. So how do you project status and vibe in the first couple of seconds when you do the approach? Well, that's based on your energy. It's based on what you say. It's based on your tonality. It's based on your body language. This is all precisely the stuff we teach. So that the answer to that is we teach, or we endeavor to teach, the status and vibe bit. And we also will consult a little bit on the look side of things as well. Oh no. Oh no. I think James is frozen. We'll put Stavros up instead. So we can cut this in a minute anyway, because I think we've got to get onto a call with somebody. But Bongo McKee says, "What kind of women get British dry humour best?" I was on a date with a German woman recently. It was impossible to connect on humour. Well, yeah, I think with German women specifically, it's always going to be a little bit tricky. I mean, it's hard to say really, because I'm not sure British dry humour necessarily translates that well into any other nationality, because even if you look at America, even if you looked at dating American girls, the British dry humour is very different to American humour. You know, we tend to be more self-deprecating, we tend to be more sarcastic than Americans and so on. Eastern European girls, they don't necessarily get it. Latin American girls probably don't necessarily get it. So it's not a question of, oh, I'm going to go to this location because they get British humour. It's more like you've just got to try and make it work with the girl that you're sitting in front of and calibrate depending on her reactions.
It's a really good question, this, because we say absolutely lead with your sense of humour, be self-amusing. But the question is, do you change the audience? And I think, the smart thing is you have to adapt, especially if you're in their country. So, for example, I'm in Brazil. They don't respond to sarcastic humor, but they do respond to kind of slapstick humor. So I'll just go up and there'll be two girls next to each other. I'll be like, "Sua namorada," your girlfriend, said a little bit deadpan, and they find that hilarious. And then automatically we're into a fun conversation. But I wouldn't do that in the UK necessarily, right? So I'm adapting it slightly, but you still want to lead with playfulness, fun. But you've got to adapt to the scenario. I mean, German women, they're hard work. They can be quite sexual, right, behind closed doors, but they're hard work because the culture is quite serious and deadpan. So it's a tough one. Yeah. But also, case by case basis, some women you come across just are fucking dry as ditch water. Doesn't matter even if they're from Brazil, a very open country, and then you just got to screen them out. Because ultimately, if a woman doesn't really vibe with your sense of humor, it's not going to last very long. That's when we say vibe, a lot of it is, does she laugh at your jokes? Really?
Yeah. I wouldn't say. I mean, obviously, we're all sort of defined to some extent by the place we come from, but I wouldn't say. I mean, what's my humor, my comedy? What's my comedy really? I mean, I don't know. Like, you're sitting on a bar and some woman comes in with a funny hat on, and you go, "Oh, look at that hat. Where did she buy that?" I mean, it's not really. Is that British? I don't know. It's just sort of observing.
Well, no, your comedy routine was quite, it was quite in depth for a long time. It was whenever we used to pay on the car machine in Poland, you just go all the way in, to the way. That was it. That was the element.
They never got that. They never got that.
No,
they never got that.
It was good though. Like, I mean, I laughed like a giggling schoolgirl. They never got it. It was all very comical.
So, why do women? We probably should finish off this, shouldn't we?
Yes.
Why do women with multiple girlfriends generally not receptive for a relationship? It looks like they have a code to be less receptive towards men who are approached for relationship, and they all remain single.
You're going to have to frame the question better than that. It's a weird one. Yeah. It doesn't really make much sense.
I don't know that they do, but also you shouldn't be approaching for a relationship anyway. You should be approaching to see what the vibe is like between the
See, this is a classic example. Great for asking the question, but classic example of an armchair theorist here, because it's nonsensical in real world application. It doesn't even make sense. But okay, so here we go. An actual question.
Coach training courses. We potentially could. I mean, what if you're?
We do. There's been about 5 or 6 guys that have ended up as coaches for us and doing their own thing. But the only way to do that is the RSD model, which is one of the few things we have in common, which is actually you have to come and train on a boot camp with us. We're not just going to go, oh yeah, we're going to invest loads of money and time in you as a random person. You have to come out, you have to do a boot camp, and you have to showcase from that you can actually be good at this skill set, and then be good at teaching people. And the only way to do that, the only way we've ever done it, is you come on a boot camp first.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
absolutely.
he was asking earlier about free trading. Now he's trying to sneak through the, oh no, but I want to be a coach. Train me for free. No, invest your fucking shekels and invest in what we're doing and come on a boot camp and get feedback. Because I guarantee you're not going to be where you think you are.
Yeah.
No one ever is.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, should we cut it there because we've got to get onto a call? So
let's rabbi it there, and then we'll do it tomorrow.
Yeah. So just email us troy@realtroyfrancis.com or info@jamestuss.com for any coaching inquiries. And
final point to make is we have the boot camps coming up. Mexico City, the date's been shifted slightly. So Mexico City boot camp is the 9th. No, hold on. Let me just read these dates out because they're important. So if you are joining us in Mexico City, the 9th to the 12th of April is Mexico City boot camp. The House of Seduction, the 16th to the 22nd in Bogota, 7 days of carnage with yours truly, myself, Troy and Les in the city with David Garcia. That's going to be epic. All staying in a luxury mansion, pulling girls back. 16th to 22nd of April. And then the final Latin American one, 30th of April to the 3rd of May, we have Argentina, Buenos Aires away. So 3 incredible Latin American boot camps coming up. And then after that, we go to Warsaw. That then begins from May to October, the European leg. So come and join us in any of those places. info@jamestuss.com, troy@realtroyfrance.com. Include your WhatsApp number. The process is we speak, we figure out if we can help you, and join us for live training, and then we give you accountability after that. That's it. It's really quite simple. So if you sat with your dick in your hand watching our content for a long time, being mildly entertained, hopefully not mildly turned on.
The word is mildly.
Yeah, but you haven't taken action. Just look, no time like the present, right? What are you going to do with your time left on planet Earth? If you haven't achieved what you want to do with women, it's quite a depressing place to be, all jokes aside. But you can fucking fix it. It is a skill set you can learn, and we're the guys to help you do that. So get in touch, and we'll see you in tomorrow's stream.
Dubai boot camp coming up next week as well.
Dubai. Tehran away.
If you could avoid the bombs. Yeah, that's it really. So we'll continue with the red flags thing tomorrow.
Yes, more red flags. Not from